Let's talk about our next discussion now. The Chief of the Air Staff, Marshal Oladayo Hamao, has given an assurance that the insecurities in the northeast and other parts of the country will be effectively tackled by the Nigerian military. Marshal Hamao believes that with the professional competence of the air servicemen and women and a well-boosted morale, the terrorists and their kind will be brought to their knees. But his assurance is coming at a time when security experts and members of civil society organizations have decried the proliferation of arms and ammunition in the country, saying it was high time the government mopped up such loose arms in wrong hands to curb insecurity. Some prominent Nigerians also recently raised the alarm that over 6 million or more arms are in the hands of civilians, thereby aggravating insecurity in the country. So that's the crux of our discussion right now. Joining me in the studio is a consultant, Presidential Committee on Small Arms and Light Weapons, Darlington Umaru. Good morning, nice to see you.
Good morning, Mike.
Great.
You're looking good.
You look good too.
Oh, wow. Inside Ramadan.
No, we are all pushing through somehow.
Oh, really?
Yeah, of course. The point there is with our Muslim brothers, we see how we can work together, pray together, fast together.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure that at the end of the day, I'll see that definition
I know
of
you
working
will
together.
see it. You'll see it. All right, let's get into this discussion now. The issue of proliferation of small and light weapons is not a new discussion. It's been there, and the consequences and all of that. But let's bring you home closer so that as we talk about these things, we can put things in perspective. What really constitutes a small arm or a light weapon in that regard?
Well, in the simplest language, a small arm is that a weapon, that firearm that can be operated by just one person.
Okay.
You have the rifle and all of that, the shotgun in that neighborhood. While the light weapons are those weapons that cannot be operated by one person, must be operated by a team, okay, between two or more. One is doing the firing and the other one is loading. That's the difference, the simplest definition of the two, and that is what separates them. Proliferation, like you rightly said, is a thing that touches the globe, the world. All the organizations, WHO, EU, ECOWAS, African Union, name them, they are all concerned. Because proliferation of small arms will not do anybody no good. I have said that there are just two reasons why any weapon is manufactured. Just two reasons. The first is either to maim, and the second is to kill. And no weapon respects either the manufacturer or the handler. That you are in possession of, as a non-state actor today, of a weapon does not mean that that weapon may not also consume you. For every hour, according to UN's report, a man goes down as a result of the presence of firearms in the hands of non-state actors. Non-state actors access their firearms from different or through different means. Like
the black market, as they say.
Well, black market, yes, but these are people who also, some of them also access their firearms from the manufacturers, but through not so many ways. There's what we call methods and techniques. small arms, arms smuggling. It's a big topic on its own. I don't think if we go into that now, we'll be able to talk about all of it.
I like us to bring it now, in such a way that Nigerians really understand the perspective and the consequences when they hear news reports on the headline of papers or even on TV or radio, so they can put things in perspective. Now, break it down to us as a form of enlightening us generally. They have, experts have linked the proliferation of arms to the increase in violence, kidnapping, terrorism, and things like that. Can you help us link them, how these things, and why is that?
Of course, without the proliferation of small arms and light weapons, those people you just mentioned, in a nutshell, they are called the non-state actors. Of course, there are the state actors who are meant to bear arms, talking about the security agencies and the military. And you also have the kidnappers, the armed robbers, the terrorists, and all of that. They are the non-state actors who bear arms. And why do they want to bear arms? It's to cause havoc. Two things are said, two reasons. For every weapon manufactured, there are just two reasons why they are manufactured. And I also have told you that they respect nobody, not even the manufacturer nor the owner of these small arms and light weapons. Now, some of these weapons, if you want to look at how they are accessed, since the fall of Libya, for instance, and the war we have had around certain regions of the continent, we have seen that those dumps and armories have been let loose, and these weapons eventually find their ways into different countries. Nigeria has been one of the big recipients, particularly through our very porous borders or the illegal routes. Now, if you want to look at all of that again, beyond those ones that are manufactured that comes from the factory abroad, we also have a bigger problem here, the local manufacturers. Last week, the spokesperson for ESN did say that if people are looking at them importing weapons, then they are getting it wrong. That most of what they have are locally manufactured. It's no news to people like us. Of course, you know that particularly along certain areas, some of the effect of what happened during the Civil War, where at a point in time, the other region had to begin to make do with manufacturing of their own weapons to tackle the Civil War, to prosecute the Civil War, as it were. Then, Nigeria has great men, particularly blacksmiths, who manufacture these small arms. I did give a story here when one of these blacksmiths, a young man, was arrested, and they visited him rather, and he looked at one of the weapons that the security men came with and pleaded that that weapon should be left with him for just 24 hours. And that when you come back the next day, you will see something. You may not be able to differentiate between the one you dropped and the one he will bring up. Now, what have we been able to do with all these manufacturers, these local manufacturers, these blacksmiths and all of them in the country? We have not been able to handle them, and they are increasing by the day, because those who are in need, the non-state actors who are in need of these small arms, are increasing in number.
And placing more demand on them.
And the demand, that's exactly, it's like you're reading my heart. I didn't know you are not a prophet.
I'm just following what you're saying.
Okay, the demand is increasing by the day, and so they are making good business. Well, good in parentheses here, because it's not legal. They are patronized, and there was one of the trainings we had recently where we trained an EU program initiated by ECOWAS. When the program coordinator of Presscom, Dr. Dixon Oji, made a projection of certain firearms and asked security men who were in attendance, some of them, to see if they could differentiate between the factory-made and the locally manufactured ones. It became a problem and a challenge. People got it completely wrong. Because, well, this is telling you how much sophisticated these local blacksmiths, these fabricators have become. You know, all they need is just to see one, and they give you a replica exactly of that. But sometimes it takes the eagle eye of an expert to actually be able to differentiate. Because, well...
the finishing will certainly let you know, maybe.
But the finishing sometimes may not even let you know.
Wow.
Well, the only thing that could let you know will be the markings.
Okay.
The markings, that is what is used for tracing. Well, that's technical now. Perhaps maybe I should break it down. For every factory manufactured weapon, they have their code mark, and they have the country code also on them. So if you find a firearm, just like CNN told us one time, that some of the live ammunition expended at the EndSARS, during the EndSARS protest at the toll gate, that they were able to trace it to. So you don't need all of that from the shell. You don't need to go to Serbia before you know who got or where they were manufactured from. All you need is just the markings on those shells. If you look at,
so every gun has a code.
Every gun has like a trademark.
Okay.
Like a trademark. Every company and country have their trademarks. And so if you are manufacturing a weapon for the purposes of records, those codes and markings must be on them. They are different, except for one or two cases when I attended the armory course, you know, the armory managers course, when we discovered that there were similarity in two countries that had almost very close markings, you know, but even so, there are still some little distinctions that could separate them, you know. But that was, we found out during that training organized by MAG. MAG is one of these NGOs from the UK, you know. But even so, a lot of these sophisticated weapons now that these persons make use of, even before the ESN made that pronouncement last week, we already know that they are being manufactured here. So these local people you find in some of the states, I don't want to mention any particular state here on air, but you find them in most states, and they are doing really, really well, young men. There was actually a video at a point in time that was put out there by the military when they arrested one young man, and they gave him a weapon to dismantle and reassemble. In a matter of minutes, he did it. A young boy, that boy should not be more than 12, 13 years old. But he handled that weapon, dismantled it, and assembled it. We're not talking about operating it now. We're talking about dismantling the parts. It's not everybody that has an idea of the various compartments or departments of a firearm. It takes the expertise because it's a technical matter. And therefore, somebody who is not a manufacturer to dismantle and reassemble it in a matter of minutes. In fact, they clapped for him. That is one of the basic challenges we have now in terms of proliferation, the locally made firearms.
All right. Now, the government is talking about, or if experts are even calling for the mop-up of this.
Mop-up has been ongoing.
But it hasn't been that successful, because the concept of mop-up has been on for so many years now. Even the days of amnesty, where they say, okay, amnesty is technically a way of mopping up arms. But how effective is that?
How effective is that? I did say on this same platform some time ago that the issue is not just about mopping up, it's about sincerity. You know, the sincerity of our purpose.
On the part of government, or on the part of who?
On the part of both parties. Okay. On the part of both parties. Most of the mop-up programs we have had are actually sponsored by bigger organizations outside this country, like the EU, ECOWAS, and the rest of the UNDP. And, well, federal government find to even worsen the matter, the body that is supposed to be bestowed with that responsibility, as provided by the United Nations across all countries in the world, is under a committee in Nigeria. And on the continent of Africa, it was the Gambia and Nigeria that were on a committee level. And you know what that means? It means that you are not basically operating under the, I don't want to say law now, but you are not really operating as when you operate as a commission, there's a difference. The National Assembly, you pass through the National Assembly, you become a legal body beyond perhaps the president of the country. It becomes an institution recognized by the National Assembly, and budgeting. Budgeting, by that I mean that for every year, annually, they'll be getting their budget just like for their operations. But right now, even the Gambia has gone far beyond what Nigeria is. Well, like somebody will often say, the day Mr. President or any president of the country at a point in time wakes up on the wrong side, he may just decide to shut down the presscom. You know, shutting it down.
The committee is at the mercy of whoever sets it up.
It's at the mercy of, well, not just the person who sets it up, but the person who is the president at a point in time. Because this current presscom was not actually set up by this administration. Okay. I think it actually came up during the era of Jonathan. It was Jonathan. It was actually a transformation of one body to another. The other one was NATCOM. NATCOM transformed to Presscom. What is really the difference is just in nomenclature, you know. But the day the president wakes up on his bad side and chooses that the committee should go, it ends. It's not backed up by law or the National Assembly, and their funding. Now they have to source for funding, you know, across UN, well, of course, through the UNDP, EU, ECOWAS, and all of that. The program, border management, was recently held in this country, and right now I think they are on the final phase. During the era of Yaradua, it was submit weapons and take cash. And well, it moved on from there to sending some of these people abroad for training, schooling, and all of that, which is also ongoing under this administration. But although last year or a year before last, many of the students complained that they had been abandoned abroad. But what we have now is giving alternative livelihood. Alternative livelihood means that you submit your weapons, and then you are sent for a particular vocational training, and then you are monitored. After the training, when you pass out, the people who trained you will have to monitor you for another supervise you for another 6 months. Well, after the training, you are given what is called a starter pack. The starter pack comes with the machineries you need for that particular trade, and then some amount of money. And then your communities, these communities where these people come from, also benefit. I think for now, the training has been on after the mop-up exercise, and these trainings took place in Abuja, Akwa Ibom, and there were three Enugu. Enugu was the third. Those in Abuja just graduated, and they had about 300 recipients, you know, who have been trained for dropping arms. This is a way of mopping up arms from the society. But the truth is, as much as these arms are being mopped, I talked about sincerity. If this sincerity didn't start today on the part of, for instance, those who want to drop these firearms, even in the era of Jonathan, not Jonathan, now Yaradua, the Yaradua-Jonathan administration, when the freedom fighters in the Niger Delta, forgive my choice of words, I see them as freedom fighters, had issues with the government at a point in time. Or
Niger Delta militants, depending on how anybody sees it.
Yeah, some people would prefer to call them militants, but I never called them militants, because I felt at a point in time that they were fighting a just cause. These were people whose farmlands were being destroyed on a daily basis. Fishing, we know them for being fishermen. The waters were polluted, and then they had nothing else to source their livelihoods from. You could not farm in the Niger Delta. You could also not fish. So how do you want these people whose traditional sources of income dependent on these two, either farming or fishery? How did you want them to survive? So it got to a point where the children begin to agitate and said they were being abandoned.
Well, but the point there is
no potable drinkable water.
Yeah, but the point there is whatever they were passing through, or they passed through, or they are still passing through, is almost the same thing every Nigerian is passing through one way or the other.
No, I think I'll disagree with you.
No, of course. I'll disagree with you on that. It's arguable.
Yeah, that's why we're arguing
that is why,
now. That's why we are using the facts now.
That is why some of the bandits some of the reports we got and we saw on some viral videos, that's why some people who came out who said they were bandits said that because they were abandoned and they had never benefited from government. And that argument also went in that regard as to, okay, if some persons, were agitators, maybe this could also be agitators. And those who were seeing it, analysts were saying, no, this is not the same situation. But let's leave that. Coming into the issue of those who are the crafters or the blacksmiths and who design
the local manufacturers.
What would it take? Some analysts have heard them say that they can be incorporated into the system where they form guilds so they can be monitored. How effective will that be in the context of looking at light weapons?
Well, those of them who have, adduced that, I don't think it's out of place.
Okay.
For every basic problem, what you need is finding solutions to them. I have been one of those who believe that for anybody to have agitations, that person can also be discussed with. The World War was fought as a result of agitation. The Second World War came, and yet all of this ended up on a round table after losing lives. The Civil War was also fought in Nigeria, and Civil War is being fought across the world today, and yet at the end of the day, what happens? You have one reason or the other, but what is important is, well, you try to use force, employ force. If your force is not yielding results, what do you do? Or in the midst of trying to also use force, you also try to be diplomatic. That is where you talk about bringing these people, sit down with them. I heard when some of those persons, precisely what the Zamfara State Governor has been trying to achieve, even though El-Rufai has said no, that he will not be a party to discussion or what he calls payment of ransom to these persons, because to him, they use that same money you give to them to buy more weapons. Well, if you look at it technically, he has a point. But if you look at it from the other point of view, our military are overstretched. Just yesterday or the day before, the new defense chief is talking about recruiting more men into the military, and many are criticizing it. I frown at those who are criticizing it. Why? Technically, if you want to look at it, Mike, the military has a figure. You employ persons, and at the end of the day, these persons, some of them die, some of them are wounded, that they cannot fight again, some of them retire.
We need replacement.
Don't you need to replace them? And then this military that are being overstretched, you find them being called into various places to come defend. One, they face terrorists, they face bandits, they face headers. I know you want me to...
And even peacekeeping mission abroad, they are involved and all of that. I'm trying to look at the time right now.
I can
But however, there was also the strategy of trying to bring back retired officers under contract and all of that.
Yeah. No, it's normal.
Okay.
It's normal. When you are told as a military man that when there's need...
Sorry, we have to leave you here now. Sorry. Darlington tomorrow. There's so much for us to talk about when it comes to this issue. I know it's your...
Particularly when you are here. You have a way of wanting to bring out everything from
Thank you very much. Darlington
tomorrow,
Consultant, Presidential Committee on Small Arms and Light Weapons. I must thank you very much for coming on the program.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Right.